What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel. You check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak about Shannon Sharpe, man. Shannon Sharpe really went after Ric Bucher, right? Earlier this week, Ric Bucher made some statements that I thought were true about LeBron James, but he basically said that the run for LeBron James has come to an end. LeBron James no longer has the leverage that he had, in years past. He also went on to say that the Lakers allowed LeBron James to make it look like it was LeBron James' decision to move away from the organization, whereas though really it was the other way around, right? So publicly they allowed LeBron James to save face or save his dignity, which a lot of people already knew that, right? And so Shannon Sharpe took exception to the things that Ric Bucher said, and then he went in on Ric Bucher. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play the audio from Shannon Sharpe's show, and then I'm gonna give some input, right? Because I don't really believe that he really addressed the things that Ric Bucher said on there. He just basically he spoke around some of the things that Ric Bucher said, but he never really addressed them because of what Ric Bucher said was true. So here we go with Shannon Sharpe and his comments, and then I'm gonna come back and give my input.
Says Lakers plan on getting rid of LeBron ever since they acquired Luka, and he finds it funny his exit was framed as LeBron telling the Lakers he was leaving. Wow, Rick, you're breaking news. Well, I mean, that'll way to go out on a limb. So let me ask you a question: if they didn't get Luka, we understand that LeBron does not have the same cachet at 41, almost 42. He had it 25. Yeah. So let me ask you a question, Mr. Bucher.
Well, before he even says that, right? All right. So if LeBron don't have the cachet that he had at 20, when he was younger in his 20s, then why is it important for LeBron James to present himself like he still has that cachet? When everybody knows that, like, as you get older, your skills fade and you don't have, and teams, they don't need you as much as they did when you got older. So why not, just like everybody else, just like Mike, Magic, Kobe, all of those guys, their skills diminished and they faded. Larry Bird, those guys didn't try to misrepresent themselves and make it seem like they were better than what they really were. And I think that fans appreciated, like, I said before, fans appreciated that, especially like with somebody like Larry Bird or Isaiah Thomas. These guys were trying to give it all they could. They was trying to get well enough so they can get out there on the court. And the fans appreciated that when Isaiah Thomas was playing with all those nagging injuries. Larry Bird had a bad back and was laying on the floor, trying to keep his back loose so he can get in there and help his team out. But they didn't try to inflate their value or hide anything. They just gave the fans, because they gave what they have, the fans appreciated them for that. And so that's what the pushback for LeBron James is.
Rick was on undisputed. If they're the same age, are they getting rid of LeBron?
Nope.
So you make it seem it's like any work employment. More times than not, what happens, Ocho? The younger guy takes the older guy's spot.
So it's been that way.
That's just the way it is.
Always been.
And when the older guy tried to make it seem like he can do more or he's better than the younger guy, when that's not the case, then you're gonna get called out for it.
In that way. Sports, corporate world, business.
Nobody is under the impression that LeBron James at almost 42 years of age is the same player. He's not. I've never said that, and I've been one of his staunchest supporters. I know he's not. And Luka, it should be Luka's team. Everybody knew that. We knew that was what they wanted. They was hoping AD was going to be able to be that bridge, because because when Kobe retired, as Kobe started getting hurt and he ends up retiring, they didn't have a bridge. Because see, they had a bridge from Kareem to Magic. Because you think about how it worked out. They had West and they had Chamberlain. They had Elgin Baylor, and then they had Jerry West, and then they get Chamberlain, and then you get Kareem, and then you get Magic, and you get Worthy, and then all of a sudden, a couple of years later, here comes Shaq and Kobe. And Shaq leaving, you still got Kobe, and you got Powell, and then they didn't have anything to fill that gap in.
Again, none of those guys that he named, like Shaq, Kobe, none of those guys, as they were getting older, they just acknowledged the fact that they were not the same player that they used to be. And you talking about a guy like Kobe who had a really, really big ego, right? But everybody knew that Kobe, by the time he retired, was a shell of himself. And so Kobe didn't make unrealistic demands of the Lakers when it was time for him to retire. But the fans respected Kobe because they knew that Kobe, gave everything that he had in the tank. Whereas though LeBron James is, it wasn't the same with LeBron James.
And then you got LeBron. And they say, you know what? We got LeBron for several years, but now we got AD, and AD will be the bridge. AD couldn't stay healthy. So now it's like, we really need somebody. The Lakers, you gotta have a star. That's the only way it works in LA. You gotta have a star. They've always had it. It's Tinseltown. So now they have their star for the next, if he can stay healthy, for the next, 7-10 years.
He got some pressure on his ass too.
I can't blame him. Who fought in the Lakers for the decision that they made? I want to know who in their right mind faulting the Lakers. Nobody.
But see, and that was not Ric Bucher's point, nor did Ric Bucher said that it was, like he's not faulting the Lakers. Again, Ric Bucher pointed out the fact that LeBron James had leverage, and when he had leverage, he exercised that leverage, and sometimes the leverage that he exercised was to the detriment of the team. And so Shannon Sharpe is making he's making a point against an argument that Ric Bucher never even made.
Nobody. But him going out of this notion ever since they acquired. Wow. You know what, Ocho?
Yeah.
Shannon had planned on retiring ever since he won the lottery. No ish. Of course. You win 500 million. Yeah. Ever since he won the lottery, he planned on retiring. Yep, you're absolutely right. I did. I did. So look, he's never been a LeBron fan, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But I think, to go out here and try to frame it like this, he just tell them, I'm not coming back. They knew that. They had offered him something. Look, I don't know. And it says now that LeBron would take, minimum, whatever the case may be. LeBron knew there was not 50. Joe, he knew there was not 30, 40, $50 million out there for him.
But he tried to get it. And like, you can't blame LeBron James for trying to get the maximum amount of money that he can get. Teams try to pay the least amount that they can pay. But it's just that in this situation, LeBron, he would be able to get whatever he demanded in the past. This time he was not able, like the tables are turned. The Lakers, they see that LeBron James is not worth the money that he thinks he can command. And so that's all that Ric Bucher, in my opinion, that's all that he was pointing out. And everybody knew that it was going to come to this, the one day that LeBron James was going to get to the point where he didn't have the leverage. His skills and the salary that he tried to command don't really match. And so, that's Shannon Sharpe is not even addressing what Ric Bucher really said.
Best case scenario, you're talking about maybe 15, maybe somebody could give you 20, maybe, but if you get 20, you're not going to be able to go anywhere and win. But the most was 15. That's max. Mm-hmm. He knew that.
You think he knew that?
Yes. Now, he probably could go somewhere, a Sacramento, and get big bucks, but that's just a ticket draw. You're not finna win.
The only reason why I say that, because when I think about LeBron, Uncle Ocho, I really don't think he thinks it's a player out there that's better than him or more cerebral than him, more important than him if you add him to it.
There's not, but you don't get to determine your value. Somebody else does.
Yes.
So
Right, and so and that's true. I agree with that. You don't get to determine your value. LeBron James, like I said, and they talk about being cerebral. You know, I think more LeBron James, in my opinion, is more selfish than anything. Right. And again, I'm not knocking that. Kobe was selfish, Mike was selfish, and those are the two of the greatest basketball players that I've ever seen. They're very selfish guys to a certain extent. They wasn't selfish to the extent where as though they would, it would just tie a team down, but selfish guys nonetheless. So Shannon Sharpe never really went up against what he never really defended or not discontinued or knocked down what Ric Bucher said. He just made a separate argument. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, I'm going to check you all out in the next video. Peace.